Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for coming. As you saw from the thumbnail, today we're going to be talking about the penguin lessons, and kind of ironic that I'm actually talking about a movie that is not per se a spiritual movie, but this movie has many spiritual aspects to it, such as um, deep theme, deep themes about compassion, transformation, and friendship. And when I watched this movie last night, I was so enamored and enthralled and engrossed into every moment of this movie. And when I walked out of the theater, all I could think about was the beautiful relationship between God's creation, which is animals, and human beings, and how we have pets, right? So let me give you the backstory about this movie so you know what I'm talking about. It isn't a well advertised movie, so I hadn't even heard about it. In fact, it was really hard to find a movie theater that was playing it. But this movie is a true story about an Englishman who takes a job in South America, in Argentina to be exact, as a English teacher. And he goes to a school to teach unruly students. But in the midst of that, he ends up rescuing a penguin at the beach. And the cool story about it is that he wasn't intending on taking the penguin with him. He just rescued him from an oil slick. But the penguin ended up following him, which was the beginning of an amazing friendship with an animal. And I was so moved because I have pets, I have cats, and I'm so moved by the love that they give me. And although they cannot speak to me, I see God's beauty all through them and around them. And, you know, there were so many lessons I took away from this movie about being still, being quiet, and remembering the scriptures that talk about how everything on earth praises God, whether it be the trees, the flowers, the skies, every human being, every creation that God has made praises Him. And the first thing I want to talk about is, you know how I talked about there's deep meanings to this particular movie. The one thing that I want to start with is talking about how compassion can transform our lives. So what ends up happening is Tom rescues a penguin who's covered in oil, and it was a seemingly small act of kindness that changes both of their lives. You know, so spiritually, this reflects how love and compassion, even towards the smallest of creatures, can be a powerful thing that aligns us with God's divine purpose. The next thing I learned from it is that every life has value. I don't know how much you know about the penguin, but I didn't know much about the penguin. I mean, who ever imagined having a pet penguin and what it could bring? But this movie, because it's a true story, shows you how smart these animals are, how they have a distinct purpose in this world. So this movie just kind of reminded me that life is sacred. The penguin, his name was Juan Salvador, isn't just a rescued animal. He becomes a source of joy and comfort and growth for the boys at the school and for the teacher. So this really echoed the biblical scripture that talks about that not even a sparrow falls to the ground without knowing God, or without God knowing. And that's in Matthew 10:29. The next thing is just how you could get unexpected blessings from God if you just take a moment to look around you, take in His beauty, take in the small things that we have in this world that don't speak, like the air, the skies, the trees. You know, they put forth speech, but although they never say a word, they speak to us. That's how it was with this penguin. You know, this teacher, Tom, he didn't expect to have a companion in this penguin. Like, he was trying to get rid of him. He took him to the water. He was like, go back to your people. And then he left him on the beach, and then the penguin followed him. You know, and this unexpected relationship became one of the most meaningful experiences of his life. Spiritually, it reminds me that God often brings blessing through unexpected people, and just situations or the creatures around us. Next is healing that comes through connection with something that God created. The presence of this penguin actually brings emotional joy to these boys. And there was a really cool part in the movie that I enjoyed, where the teacher has all the boys lay down on the floor, and the penguin's walking around class and everybody's just laying down. And what ends up happening is he tells the boys, the reason we're doing this is because penguins always have to look up at us, so we're going to lay down so that he doesn't have to look up at us. And I know that sounds very small, but it was a lesson that these boys learned, that even the penguin has meaning. Even the penguin deserves respect. And so they all just laid there in class, and the penguin walked around them. It's actually really cute. But this, picture that we see in this movie just reminds us that God uses relationships, even unlikely ones, to bring restoration and healing to wounded hearts. And these kids were obviously wounded. And then last but not least, the joy of the present moment. That's what this penguin brought to these people. His playful and peaceful nature actually invited the viewers to this movie appreciate the simplicity, nature, and the present moment, echoing spirituality practices like mindfulness and gratitude. So, just what a blessing it was to even just watch this movie. And I just walked away just feeling happy. Like, oh my God, I want a pet penguin. He was so cute. Recommend everybody definitely seeing it. So, I think the main thing is that although the penguin didn't preach a word, he didn't sing a worship song, but just by being what God created him to be, it reflected God's goodness and glory. So when you go into your day today, I want you to take a moment to just be still, look around, enjoy the peacefulness of what God created, and know that you are special to him. He doesn't make anything that is not beautiful. Your life is precious to him. The Bible talks about the birds of the air, right? That God feeds them, that he clothes the flowers of the field. How much more will he not clothe us? Oh, you of little faith. That's what he says. And that's what this reminded me of. Penguins are birds. And I just thought about, they're taken care of no matter what. And they have complete, utter trust in their caregiver. And then just an ending and thinking about, like I said, my pets, they have complete, utter trust in me. And I don't know how much you know about cats, but, cats are very, what's the word I'm looking for? That's why the saying scaredy cats come, because cats are very, I can't even think of what I'm trying to say. I think you guys know where I'm going with this. They can be scared. They're kind of afraid of any sounds or anything. Well, if a cat actually lays on its back, its most vulnerable spot is its belly. And if it rolls on its back and opens up its belly to you, that means they feel completely and utterly safe with you. And that vision just makes me think, when I look at them, I think, is that how I approach God in the morning? Do I approach God on my back, just ready for him to just love up on me and feeling completely safe and secure in his plan for my life? So I want to leave that with you guys. I hope you enjoyed this. If you haven't seen the movie, you've got to check it out. And let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what you guys thought of the movie. I was so moved and inspired by it. So that's it for this video. I hope you guys have a fantastic and blessed day, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.